Hello, this is your host, Austin Hopkins, and welcome to the Introvert Leader Podcast. Welcome to episode 38. Super excited to have you guys here today. We're going to be talking about optimism and positivity and what that means for me in my life, how to use it in your life, what strategies you can adopt. And I want to give you everything I know about optimism because it's been a game changer in my life. But before we jump into the meat and potatoes, as they say, I want to give you a quick update on what I have been into recently. So kicking things off, music. I've been listening to a 90s hip hop group called Gangstar. Don't know if you know them, but if you know, you know. And my favorite song for them is called Above the Clouds. I love the samples. Very, very solid. Moving on, YouTube content. I ran into this channel from this guy named Bobby Parrish maybe about a year and a half ago. And the guy talks about clean eating and a clean diet and looks at the ingredients that's in our food. And I really, really enjoy his content so much that he actually inspired me to buy some of his protein powder. I probably do protein powder every single day. Me and my wife have a shake. And I'm telling you what, his protein is by far the best protein I have ever had. Not only does it have perfectly clean, whole ingredients, right? None of those fillers, none of that crap, but it also tastes really, really, really good. So highly recommend. If you haven't tried out his channel, definitely give it a watch. And if you haven't tried his protein powder, 100% recommend. Okay, moving on. TV movies. Recently just watched one of my favorite movies called Jersey Boys, directed by Clint Eastwood. I think it came out in the late 2015 to 2020, somewhere in that range. And it's the story of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. You may have heard of that group. Really, really famous group, and he did a great job directing this. I thought it was a fantastic movie. It shows their kind of origin story, all the stuff they go through, the drama, the success. So really, really good. If you like Clint Eastwood's directing style, I know you're going to like the movie. And if you like a movie that has a really, really good soundtrack, highly, highly recommend. Okay. Quick update. I just wanted to say thank you for the support of the podcast. Honestly, something's been happening, guys. I don't know. I think we're hitting a critical mass, but we are now charting in, I think, 7 countries, and it's all thanks to you. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. We continue to see success with the podcast, hitting the top 100 in many, many countries, which is something I didn't even think was possible when I started this a year and a half ago. But I'm just really, really excited for where we're going and the success that we've been seeing and the engagement. So if you want to kind of follow along and see how things are progressing, get updates on the podcast, of course, you can listen into these episodes, but follow me on LinkedIn. I post on there 3 or 4 times a week. I talk about the podcast when new episodes are coming out. I give updates about my journey and just behind the scenes stuff. So if you enjoy my content, I'm positive you'll enjoy following me on LinkedIn as well. Okay, what I want to do now is transition into a listener Q&A. So the question today is, what are some effective strategies for advancing my career without sacrificing work-life balance? So good question as usual. I would say to begin with, listen to your gut and, only focus on work that will move the dial and that you enjoy. So if you're focusing on work that you enjoy, that has a big impact on the company, you're not going to feel like you're overworking because you're going to enjoy it and you're going to see the positive benefits. But if you're spending your time working on stuff that doesn't move you forward in your career or that isn't high impact work within the company, you may start to feel a little burnout. So I would say listen to your gut. If you feel like you're working too much, pull back, focus on work that matters, and I'm confident that's going to help you get to where you want to be. Good question. Okay, so today we're talking about optimism. So why do we want to even talk about it? So for me, the reason I really, really want to talk about this is I think this mindset is the reason for most of my success. Of course, my faith and the people around me and all that jazz, but I really believe the mindset of positivity, optimism has helped my career, my marriage, my relationship with my friends, my family. And I just want to talk about what I've learned, my go-to strategies, how I tap into that when I need to. And before we do that, I want to kind of maybe just define it. So optimism is basically defined as this hopefulness and confidence about the future or the successful outcome of something, right? And science tells us that optimism is powerful. In fact, I was reading some articles today and I'll include them in the episode description. But optimism is powerful, and a lot of experts are saying that it can help you live longer, up to 8 years even. It can lower your cortisol levels, and it can help you cope and improve workplace results. Optimism's powerful. It can do some cool stuff. So what I want to do is maybe start with some of the positive benefits that I've seen around optimism, and I want to give you some of the obvious ones, but maybe some of the less obvious ones as well. So obviously, being optimistic comes with some massive, massive benefits. And I'm going to share with you the ones that I think are very, very obvious to start. So the first one for me is you're going to attract / identify more opportunities. So we attract what we put out in the world. I truly believe that. So if you're a negative person, you may attract negative people and experiences, but the opposite is also true. So if you're staying positive, optimistic, that things are going to work out, you're going to attract people and opportunities that are better. So for example, let's say your boss asks you to take on a new project at work. And imagine you tell your boss you'd be happy to work on it, and you assume the project's going to go well. So you work hard, you produce better results because you know it's going to turn out well. You're confident that the project is going to be a success. And then when the project wraps up, your boss is going to come to you because you crushed the last one. So, right, he's seen your previous work. He saw how well you did. He's going to be more likely to get you on the next one as well. So I really believe this kind of stuff happens all the time. And for me personally, I know there have been so many opportunities that have come to me just because of my optimism, just because of the positivity that I'm trying to put out in the world. Things come my way. I attract other people that are positive. I attract opportunities that are going to propel my career and life to the next step. So really, really good benefit, obviously. Another one is enhanced mental health, right? And I think that's something that a lot of us deal with. Experts say that having a positive, optimistic mindset can be a game changer for mental health. I'm talking about less stress and anxiety. And when we're optimistic and we're assuming the best for the future, we're going to feel less anxious, right? We're going to know that things are going to work out. So we're not ruminating over potential situations that could be bad. We're just assuming the best. All right. Another one for me is increased resilience. Every one of us goes through tough stuff in our life. Maybe a family member gets sick. Maybe you get laid off of work. Maybe your car breaks down. And it can be so easy in those moments to feel really sorry for yourself, to get down, to assume the worst, to basically say, well, the whole day's ruined. The rest of this day, this month, this year is going to be shitty. But I have found that when I stay optimistic during these shitty situations, stuff gets easier. At the end of the day, nothing is forever, right? Good stuff doesn't last forever. Bad stuff doesn't last forever. But if you're going to just assume that things are going to be bad, you're going to probably attract that. And then the last one that I think is kind of a fun one, which is people want to be around you more when you're optimistic. They're drawn to you. You give off a light energy that attracts people to you. People like to be around people who are easy to be with, right? So think about a positive, optimistic person in your life. Aren't they fun to be with? And the opposite is true as well. Think about someone who is negative, like the Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, right? Just down, negative. You don't want to be around those people. They suck your energy. You want to be around people that are light, that are optimistic, that are positive. So more people are going to be around you, right? That's just what's going to happen. And so those are some of the obvious benefits that I've seen. So here are some of the kind of the unexpected benefits. So believe it or not, improved physical health. I believe that my body is healthy. I really believe that. If my knee hurts one day, I don't just assume the worst. I don't just assume they're going to have to take my knee out or do surgery on it. I know it's just temporary. And that overall, my knee is going to be fine. And I tell myself that I'm strong and healthy. I literally tell myself this whenever I'm doing something. Like I go to the gym, I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill this workout. I know I'm going to be able to do it. And these thoughts make it easier to want to work out and eat healthy. And our bodies pick up what we think. And I'll give you an example, and it's kind of a sad one, but it's true. So my grandma, at the age of like 50, thought she was old and weak. She pretty much gave up when she turned 50. She thought she was at the end of her life. And unfortunately, her body picked up on those thoughts. So because she thought she was old and weak, she didn't exercise, she didn't eat right, and eventually it took a toll on her body. She became unhealthy. Now, luckily, she's still alive and kicking, but it's definitely taken a toll on her health. So look at some of the people around you. Do you know some people that are super negative? Do they seem like the picture of health, or do they maybe not seem super healthy? I really believe that if you are an optimistic person who tries to be positive and you view your body that way, your physical health, you're going to continue to attract that in your life. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to feel stronger. And that's just true for me, and it's true for the people around me as well. I think another unexpected benefit of optimism is it can really help you with your decision making and your problem solving. So when I'm thinking optimistic or positive, I'm more in the moment, right? I'm not worried about all these potential negative things that can happen in the future or anxiety. I'm in the now. This frees up space for me to be in the moment. And when I see potential problems, I don't get stuck in the worry stage. And immediately I'm in that problem solving mindset. So for me, it's just a simple thing of opening up free space in my brain. I'm not worried about something else, so I get to be more in the moment, which allows me to perform better. So I really believe that's kind of an unexpected benefit as well. And then the next one would be enhanced creativity. When I'm optimistic and positive, I think anything I try will work. So I'm willing to look stupid, to get vulnerable and try new stuff and be creative. And I'm not really worried on how it's going to turn out because I'm positive something good's going to come of it. And so some examples of that could be like thinking about like new leadership styles or trying new projects or picking up new sports or instruments. But for me, I just know that these things are going to work out. And I'm not saying that I'm assuming that if I try a new instrument, then I'm going to be amazing at it, but I'm assuming that I'm going to enjoy it or that I'm going to learn something about it, right? And then I think the last unexpected benefit, and go with me on this one, is financial success, financial gain, financial security. And, I'll tell you this, I've been lucky to experience financial security since my mid-20s, and I really attribute this to two things, my faith, but also a positive or optimistic mindset. When stuff wasn't going well financially, right? When I was making minimum wage, barely being able to pay my rent, when I had a poor credit score that was like in the, 600s, I knew stuff was going to get better. I didn't sit in those moments and think, oh my gosh, I'm only making $9 an hour. I can't pay my rent. It's going to be like this forever. Oh no, poor me. Nope. I knew, hey, this sucks right now. I'm not detached from reality. I know this sucks. I'd really love to have more money, but something's going to happen. Something positive is going to happen. Something's going to change. I had faith. I expected the best. And this continues to serve me and my wife today. We feel an abundance around income, money, success, and we know that more good stuff is coming our way. So financial gain, enhanced creativity, enhanced decision-making, problem-solving, improved physical health. Those are some of the unexpected benefits that I don't think people talk about a whole lot when it comes to optimism, but they're really important and they're pretty darn cool if you ask me. Okay, so I told you about some of the benefits, some of the obvious and less obvious ones. What I want to do now, transition a little bit and tell you how I cultivate optimism in my life. So I believe it's 100% possible to become more positive or optimistic. It takes some work, it takes some self-awareness, and I want to share with you 3 ways that I work on being optimistic and positive. So I'll start by saying this. I don't think everyone is optimistic or positive in every situation in their life. That's insane. You would be a crazy person to be able to do that. So there are going to be moments where you feel more optimistic and there's going to be moments where you feel negative. That being said, I think there's things you can do to cultivate it when you're maybe not in the right place. So number 1, hang with the right people. There is a reason that people say you are the sum of the people you spend your time with. So if I start hanging out with negative, self-pity, people that are feeling sorry for themselves, guess what? I start feeling like that. And conversely, if I start hanging out with optimistic, positive people who get shit done, I start feeling like them too. So I want you to take a really close look at the people around you. I'm talking about your family. I'm talking about your friends. I'm talking about your coworkers. And if they aren't positive or optimistic or making you better, maybe you should cut them out or limit your time with them. So here's some examples. If you know someone who's constantly complaining, constantly talking shit, constantly feeling sorry for themselves, this is the type of person to avoid, even if they're your family. I'm not saying to not love your family. I'm not saying to not be there for your family. But what I am saying is, can you avoid time with that negative person? And if so, I would probably recommend it. The next way that I have found success in cultivating optimism is doing an audit of myself in the moment. So there are going to be moments where we have these automatic negative thoughts. And it's so important that we catch ourselves in the moment when we're being negative or assuming the worst, right? Remember, nothing is permanent. The bad situation you are in will go away. I promise you. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. Sometimes it's a 1-year crappy situation. Sometimes it might be a 5-year crappy situation, but it's not for the rest of your life. And so, here's an example. Let's say you're at work and your boss's boss gives you some negative feedback, right? You could easily go down a rabbit hole and start thinking that they don't like you and that you're never going to get promoted, assuming the worst, or you could simply accept the situation for what it is. It's just some feedback one time and you'll make sure to fix it and it's not going to come up again. So there is a perfect example. You catch yourself. So audit yourself in the moment. If you're seeing yourself go down a path of negativity, of assuming the worst, I want you to take a second. I want you to ask yourself, is this a logical thought that I'm having, or am I just assuming the worst? Chances are it's probably not logical. Okay, the next thing that I think you can do that will really help cultivate optimism is practice some gratitude. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but despite whatever crappy thing you're going through in your life right now, things could be worse, right? And I know that's a cheesy saying and you've heard that before, but what can you be grateful in your life, right? Do you have a happy family? Do you have your health? Do you have a rewarding job? Do you have enough money to eat and live? Do you have a car that works? I mean, when you are in the moment of crap, things that aren't going well, I want you to take 2 seconds and remember what's going well in your life. This has really helped me tremendously. And sometimes, there were some times over the last, 3 or 4 years when I was going through some tough times at work. And my wife was right there with me, being an awesome support system. And I would just take a second and be like, you know what? This is really crappy at work right now. But at the end of the day, we have an awesome marriage. I love you. This is so amazing that we get to spend time with each other and we have cool hobbies and we get to do fun stuff on the weekends. Like, I was able to find something that was positive, and that really helped me get through it because it kind of takes over that cloud away from you, that overall negative, depressing cloud. And you realize it's just one thing that's not going well in my life. So I guarantee you, if you look in your life, you can find one thing that's going well. Maybe it's you found a new song yesterday that you really like. Maybe it's a new TV show you've been into. Maybe it's you went to the gym one day this week. I don't care. There is something that every single person on earth can be positive about, optimistic about, grateful for. So those are 3 things that I do. I hang with the right people. I audit myself in the moment, and I try to practice gratitude. Those have really helped me cultivate optimism. Okay, I want to transition a little bit and talk about being an optimist, but also being pragmatic. So you can't only be optimistic and become too naive, right? It's important to find that balance between being pragmatic and optimistic. So a couple things that I always like to do to make sure that I'm, keeping myself balanced is, number 1, don't be delusional or lose touch with reality. So it's not good to downplay real problems. Be realistic, right? So here's an example. Let's say you run a sales team that normally brings in about $2 million in revenue per quarter. And for the next quarter, you want your team to bring in some more revenue. So you're thinking about upping the goal. And it could be tempting to say to the team, like, guys, I think we should set our goal at 40 million. Well, I think you could imagine this is ludicrous and very unlikely the team is going to be able to turn 2 million into 40 million. So instead, maybe come up with a stretch goal, but something that's grounded in reality. Maybe you look at what they've done in the past. Maybe you add 10 to 20%, but you don't 10x whatever the goal is. So going through life detached from reality due to your positivity can cause some massive issues. So I've seen some people do this where things are not going well in their life. They are not making good choices, but they keep just staying positive and they think that's the answer to everything. It's not. You can't be delusional. You can't lose touch with reality. You got to realize where you're at, but also, of course, assume the best. I think another one is don't piss people off. Let people feel their feelings. There are times where people are feeling down. And I've made this mistake before. Sometimes people just need to go through feeling sorry for themselves for a quick minute and then make a move. And if you try to have people skip that part, you can kind of piss them off. No one wants to be around a person who is 100% positive all the time. As humans, we're going to have a range of emotions. So sometimes we want to feel sad. Again, I'm not saying to feed into that sadness for weeks, for months, for days, but for a couple of hours, yeah, that's okay. That's totally okay. You're going to feel sad sometimes. You're going to feel down sometimes. You're going to feel negative sometimes. Totally okay. And the people around you are also going to feel that. And so you need to let them feel those feelings and not try to get them past that. Okay. The next one is be optimistic, but be prepared. So being optimistic doesn't mean being underprepared. It doesn't mean that you go through life just assuming the best, but not putting in the work. And I've seen some people think that's enough. It's not the case. Yes, you need to be positive. Yes, you need to be optimistic and assume the best of the future, but you also need to be prepared. So make sure you put in work, be prepared for the worst, but expect the best. That's what it comes down to. It's the combination of both, being optimistic, but also being prepared, putting in the work, but also knowing that it's going to turn out good. So I want to transition and talk a little bit about optimistic leadership. I believe one of the easiest ways to level up your leadership is to adopt a positive, optimistic mindset. So optimism is one of the easiest ways to boost your team's success. And I'm just going to cover with you a few different ways that optimism has an impact on leadership. And then I want to give you a quick warning as well. Number 1, I think adopting an optimistic, positive mindset culture is going to lead to better morale and a better team culture. And do you want your team to come into work feeling light, energized, or do you want them to feel serious, negative? The more optimism and positivity you lead with, the better the morale of the team will be. They're going to feel some psychological safety, which allows them to take risks and get creative, which leads to better results. Imagine if they don't have to worry that their boss is thinking the worst of them, or they don't have to worry that their boss doesn't think the new project's going to work. That's going to take some pressure off them. They're going to be able to focus on what really matters. So I have really found that a positive, optimistic vibe of leadership really, really helps the team. And your optimism is contagious. That's the next one. Your team looks to you. They follow your lead. They even copy you sometimes. So do you want them to copy negativity, a scarcity mindset, pessimism, or do you want them to copy optimism, positivity? Remember this whenever you're interacting with your team. Over time, you will literally see your team change and become more like what you're showing. So be careful. Show them the right thing and they're going to become more like that. Show them the wrong thing and they're going to become more like the wrong thing. And then I think the last thing I want to do is give you a quick warning. It's important to be positive, but it's also important to be realistic. Sometimes your team will be going through something tough. And if you come to them with an overly positive style where you seem to be oblivious to their struggles, they are not going to want to come to you because they're going to know every time I go to Austin, he just says it's sunshine and rainbows. And sometimes your team needs you to simply say, man, that sucks. And, I can't say I'm perfect at this. And, P.S. I'm still learning this lesson with my wife. Sometimes she doesn't want the rainbows and sunshine response. She wants empathy from me and she wants me to just be with her. And same for your team. When the stuff sucks, that's okay. Let your team know you get it and that you're there to help. So saying stuff like, it will all work out all the time may not be the right move. So just listen, be optimistic, but be realistic. Understand that there's ebbs and flows, that people go through a range of emotions, and you don't want to have them stop trusting you because they don't think you can understand what they're going through. That would be my small warning. Okay, I want to wrap up with a quick story, and this one's pretty personal. So, in 2020, my sister-in-law got diagnosed with breast cancer, my wife's sister. Out of nowhere, her life and ours got turned upside down. It was the beginning of COVID, and she had found out she had now had cancer. And this was weird because she was healthy. She was in good shape, no history of cancer, and it was a shock. Started going to the doctors, getting scans, and it wasn't looking good. And, shortly after her diagnosis, we could tell it was just a big burden on her and her husband. So we offered to have her daughter or our niece come and stay with us so that she could focus on healing. And I remember vividly this whole time because my wife and her whole family were spiraling. Everyone was assuming the worst. Everyone was just thinking negatively, it seemed like. But for me, I just knew that wasn't going to be helpful for us. So, we loved having our niece live with us. And I remember, we didn't talk a lot about her mom's cancer because she was only 10. But whenever we did talk about it, we made sure to tell her that we knew her mom was going to get healthy. And after a few weeks of the diagnosis, I remember telling my wife something deep inside me knew she was going to make it. She was a tough son of a bee, and I had the confidence that everything was going to work out. I knew she would go through hell and back, but I knew she would make it back. And I kept telling that to my wife and our niece anytime I could. I wanted all of us to really believe it. And I believe there's power in what we say. And so I kept just saying this. And I would say this to her, to my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. And, the next 3 years were rough on her. They were tough. They were rough. She had surgery after surgery. But praise the Lord, she got clear, man. She is clear from cancer. And I'm not sitting here telling you that my optimism got rid of her cancer. Absolutely not. But it sure helped me and my wife stay positive and support our sister better. So, I think that's kind of an extreme case of something bad that's going on in someone's life. But there are little things all around us that are not going well. And it can be so easy to assume the worst, to just think things are not going to get better. But I'm telling you, if you can stay optimistic, if you can catch yourself in the moment, if you can surround yourself with positive people, if you can take a moment to be grateful for the things that are going well in your life, things will get better. Your career is going to get better. Your relationship's going to get better. Your health's going to get better. Adopt that positive mindset. Adopt the optimism that I know is deep inside of you. You have it. You have access to it, but you got to tap into it. So, challenge before we wrap up today is I want you to catch yourself the next time you're having one of those automatic negative thoughts. I want you to label it and I want you to move on. I want you to just understand that it's temporary and this too shall pass. And then I want you to do an audit of the people around you. Are they good for you? Are they bad for you? Do you need to make some decisions? Do you need to cut some people out, to limit some time with people? That's okay, because at the end of the day, you need to be the best version of yourself. So I hope you got a little value out of today's episode about optimism. I want to say thank you so much for listening as normal. Make it a great day. This has been the Introvert Leader Podcast. Subscribe for new episodes every other Wednesday.